go. You guys ready? Yeah. All right, let's go ahead. There's old Joe. Oh, I got a live fly. Ladies and gentlemen, we welcome you to our American Fork City Council meeting on this November 22nd, 2016. We have an agenda that is as a desk there as you come in. If you'd like to grab one, we will follow that agenda as outlined. We would like to remind you that this is being streamed live, and then it is archived to be referenced at any time on the city website. And we'd like to also recognize that the packets that the city council received, the information that we have, is also on the website, and it has been since about Wednesday of last week, maybe Thursday, I think. And so much of this information the city council's had in front of us for a while, but you are entitled to that same information on afcity.org. We'd like to excuse the mayor tonight. He had a recent surgery, and he was in the office today for almost 6 hours, and he called me and he just said that he was spent for the day, but he's doing well and would like to be here tonight, but he just didn't feel like he could physically make tonight. So we'll excuse him. And as such, I'll be acting as Mayor Pro Tem, but I will be and as well be a council member, so I will have a vote, so you know. We will proceed with the agenda as outlined. If you'd stand, we'll have a Pledge of Allegiance followed by Father Blaine of the St. Peter's Catholic Church, after which I'll conduct the roll call. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
And let us pray. God our Father, we praise and thank you for this day, for all of the blessings and gifts that you give us, especially as we approach Thanksgiving Day. Let's never forget to always thank you every day for all that you give us, not just once a year. We ask you the guidance of the Holy Spirit upon our council this evening as they contemplate and rule on the decisions which affect our city. We ask these things through Christ our Lord. Amen.
Amen. Thank you, Father Blaine, for that. I will now conduct the roll call. Councilman Barnes.
Present.
Councilman Bowen.
Present.
Councilman Shelton.
Here.
Councilman Shorter.
Here.
Okay, we have a quorum and can conduct the business of the city. We see a few scouts out there. It's very customary in our city council meeting that we have you come forward. And we would like to invite you to come forward at this point. And if you would, just turn that microphone around and tell us your name and your rank, if you wouldn't mind doing so. If you're not in uniform, don't be shy. Come up anyway.
My name's Brandon Thorpe, and I am a Life Scout.
My name's Joseph Oldham, and I'm a first class.
My name's Colby Klinger, and I'm a tenderfoot.
My name's Art Jackson, I'm a tenderfoot.
My name is Morgan Lish, and I am a first class.
My name is Braden Butler, and I'm a first class.
Thank you, boys. Appreciate you being here. We know it's part of a merit badge requirement. And if I could just share, I was in your shoes once, and I actually fulfilled my Eagle project here in American Fork City at the cemetery, where it is now deemed a veteran's burial plot. So as you get a little closer to your Eagle, you get to the rank of life. we have a great opportunity for you to serve the city in your Eagle project. So thank you for being here. We'll try to behave ourselves just for you guys. Now have that moment where we have a 20-minute set aside for public comment. We'd ask you to limit it to 2 to 3 minutes. And if you feel like you want to come up, we'll have you turn that mic around and address the city council and senior staff if you feel like it. Seeing none, we will close the public comment period and we will move on to council reports concerning committee assignments. I'll start to my right here, Councilman Barnes.
Just one quick thing. We've talked about it several times, but it now has happened, and that was the Veterans Day program that was held on the 11th of this month. I personally felt it was a very good program. I want to thank all those that were involved, city staff, and especially the cemetery committee and the cemetery employees and the work that they do. I think we had a wonderful program with good speakers and good music, and it's a great way to celebrate and remember the service of so many of all those who have served. And that's my report.
Thank you, Councilman Barnes. Councilman Bowen?
Yeah, I also enjoyed the Veterans Day program. Good job on that. I just wanted to tell everyone Happy Thanksgiving. We have the opportunity to celebrate this truly American holiday. It's been almost 400 years, not quite, but just about 400 years since the Pilgrims landed, and they really struggled at first. And when they finally got that harvest, they did have gratitude and they did offer thanks. They kind of gathered together and had a 2 or 3 day celebration. They tried some other things too that were more communal that didn't work out so good. It was only after they kind of adopted a free market approach that they actually started to prosper in both Jamestown and Plymouth colonies, which is instructive for our nation. But I'm thankful for this holiday. It was about 150 plus years later from the time they were at Plymouth that we actually had our country after the Revolutionary War and had a new Constitution and a new Congress. And President George Washington, of course, was the first president. And that Congress requested that he make a proclamation about Thanksgiving. And so this was really our first holiday, and as a uniquely American holiday, I think it's great. So he did, President Washington offered a proclamation, National Day of Thanksgiving and Prayer, which you can Google on the internet and read that. It's just a few paragraphs, but I think it's great. So I just wanted to express my thanks for all that we have as a city, as families. I'm thankful that we have self-government, and I'm thankful that we have our free country. So happy Thanksgiving.
Thank you. Councilman Shelton.
Thanks. Had a great opportunity with the Chamber of Commerce. They had a Tri-City Chamber meeting that took place earlier this month with Lehigh and Pleasant Grove Chamber of Commerce is coming together for a half day to listen to various leaders talk about economic development and the business on the north end of the county. And it's great and exciting to see all of the economic development that is taking place and that we've been blessed with. Right now, our county, Utah County, is growing triple of the national average, and the state's growing double the national average. And so it's kind of neat to see that happening right here in our backyard. I also want to take time just to give a report back. Probably my toughest critic ever since I was on the city council in regards to our police department approached me this last week and told me that hell froze over and pigs were flying and wondered if I'd seen that or not. And I kind of chuckled and asked him to explain a little further. And he said that, he's always complained about our officers and the way in which he's been treated in our city. And he drives a very expensive vehicle throughout our town and was pulled over recently. And the officer approached the vehicle and mentioned that he didn't have tags on his plate, and he didn't realize that since he had bought the car that he had forgotten to put the tags on the plate. And she was able to give him a good warning, but also offered to put those tags on the plates for him, and he was shocked at that, and she went behind the vehicle and attached those tags right then and there, and that really impressed him. And so I thought that was important for us to be able to note that sometimes it's easy for us to get stuck in the rut of our day-to-day jobs, but to remember truly who we serve as the community, and that made a significant impression upon him. And so, Chief, if you wouldn't mind passing that on to Tammy and telling her how much that meant, at least to me, to get some good feedback from probably the toughest critic, I think, in the city. That was good to hear, so thank you.
Thank you, Councilman Shelton. Councilman Shorter.
Thank you. Just met with the library board this past week. They're looking for some members to join that board, and so if you're interested in being part of the library board, submit your application to the mayor, and then we'll do a review of that. But we'd love to have more members of the board. Just for you scouts, there are a couple of Eagle projects that were just finished up in the library. A couple of Eagle Scouts got their Eagle Award by serving the library, and there are a lot of other projects to do. They're using their park tax to some good benefit for some baby board books for newborn babies, and also for children that are up to, I think, third grade is when you decide whether you're going to succeed or fail in life, depending on how well you read. So the library is really working on trying to help literacy with young people, so that once they develop a love of reading, it makes a difference in their lives from then on. So the library is doing some great things, and that's my report.
Thank you, Councilman Shorter. I would just like to echo the words of gratitude for those involved in our Veterans Day program. You know, twice a year in this city, we get together. Probably the last 5 years, it's been in the Tabernacle, because we just need a building that fits that many people. It's a very similar event. We have great music. We have a speaker that is very inspiring, that brings to light the relevance of the day. And then we take probably about 15 minutes, and one by one we read the names of those who have lived in our community, have ties to our community, that gave the ultimate sacrifice. And it seems a little repetitious, but it is a great tradition. I went out after the meeting. I was just mingling in the crowd, and a lady came to me and she says, "This is one of the great traditions in American Fork." So I couldn't agree more. So thank you, Councilman Barnes, and for that committee. That was a wonderful program. That concludes my report. We will now move on to the common consent agenda. There are 7 items on that agenda. The first one being approval of the November 3rd, 2016 work session minutes. Number 2, approval of the November 8th, 2016 city council minutes. Number 3, approval of city bills for payment from November 7th, 2016 to November 22nd, 2016, and purchase requests over $25,000. Number 4, approval of a partial release for the performance guarantee bond in the amount of $611,536 for Easton Park Phase 1, located at 650 South, 860 East. Number 5, approval of the authorization to release the improvement construction guarantee in the amount of $22,500 and issue a notice of acceptance for the Mira Vista Plat B and C construction of public improvements located at 502 South, 1040 East. Number 6, approval of the partial release for the performance guarantee bond in the amount of $287,000, $300,053 for the Mitchell Meadows subdivision located at 900 West, 1000 North. And the last item, number 7, approval of a partial release for the performance guarantee bond in the amount of $196,560.20 for Rivulet Apartments located at 860 East, 460 South. Do I have a motion to approve the common consent agenda?
So moved.
Thank you, Councilman Shorter, for that motion. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Second by Councilman Shelton. We'll have a roll call vote.
Could we discuss it real fast?
Certainly.
Thanks. I just, I wondered if any of the other councilmen had an opportunity to review the statements of the bills that we're paying.
Yes.
Great. Did you notice the bank card information on there?
Yes.
I was glad to see that personally. I hadn't seen that before. But there were about 60 entries of bank card charges totaling over $10,000. I'd just be interested to know what the categories were for those as far as what they went to. And then I had about a dozen other questions. The packet that we receive is separate from the financial expenses that we receive, and those are dated yesterday. Just would really like to see the city under the direction of the mayor, reinstitute the finance committee, whereas we as a council meet and publicly review the finances and get any questions answered prior to this meeting. I just think that's very appropriate and one of our most important roles.
I had a great meeting this week with our finance director, Trevor, and he's had the opportunity in his new position and being new at the city. I think has a lot of great insights on what we can be able to do, and I think that is something that we ought to discuss going further. He has a lot of great ideas on various controls and things of that nature that can probably help strengthen our financial oversight. And so I look forward to perhaps having a work session down the road on that topic as well.
Do you have any questions you like answered right now, Councilman Bowen?
No, I think the questions I had, it would be more appropriate to discuss with Trevor. And but I was able to review all the expenses, even though we just had the day. I just wanted to state that's why I'll be voting no, is just because I'm not comfortable voting for it until I actually, have those questions answered.
Councilman Barnes, do you have a comment?
Those that know me know I like to just kind of make these comments. Item number 7 is $196,000 and some change and 20 cents. I just think it's interesting that we're getting down to the pennies literally when we're still talking about roughly $200,000. Now, what I think that says to all of us is the bean counters literally are counting every one of the beans and keeping track of the beans, and that's good for this city. So in a roundabout way, that's a compliment to everybody that's involved in this. I know it didn't quite come out that way, but I want it to be noted that it was a compliment and not a critique.
And I'd just state for the record, too, that I'm supportive of the guarantee bond releases.
Trevor, would you like to say something?
I'd be happy to entertain any suggestions or recommendations on what the council would like to see. We do things a little bit different. What I've tried to implement is a little more check and balances than what I've seen in the past. I review it from an auditor standpoint. Our treasurer reviews it from a cash standpoint, and then administration with the mayor or the interim city administrator reviews it also. And then we also take it to the council for ratification. I will make a note of a change, if I may. On the $25,000 purchases, there's the third line item to Nolan and Son Constructions. Our Public Works Director would like to hold out a portion of that as retainage. The invoice was submitted for the $277,000. However, like I said, the Public Works Director would like to only pay $258,861.10.
Will you repeat that again?
Yep. It's $258,861.10.
Those beans again.
I'll go ahead and amend my motion to include that change.
I'll go ahead and second that.
Okay, thank you, Trevor. All right, we have a motion and a second. Call for a roll call vote. Councilman Barnes?
Yes.
Councilman Bowen?
No.
Councilman Shelton?
Aye.
Councilman Shorter?
Aye.
Councilman Frost is aye. Thank you. Common consent agenda has been approved. We'll now move on to the action items. First one being a review and action on a resolution amending the transportation element of the American Fork City General Plan in order to eliminate a local class road referred to as the Art Dye Collector, located near 980 North and 500 East. Nestor, would you mind just giving us a quick summary on this for?
Good evening, Mayor, members of the council, and the public. What we have in front of us today is the amendment of the Transportation Master Plan. Back when I was a junior engineer, I attended a council meeting, and one of the council members says, "How many times do we need to amend a master plan?" And the answer was as many times as we need to, based on changes on how the city is growing. So back when this master plan was adopted, there was not a connection to 980 North. So the biggest concern was, how do we bring more traffic to the RDI exiting and entering the park? But now that we have a connection, we no longer need that road to the north. That was the access concern. The second concern was financially. After designing this road and estimating the cost, it's probably financially unfeasible to pay for such a road. And the long-term maintenance is also another budget item that the city is not going to be able to afford. And the last one is an environmental concern. This road is going to have a steep slope. It's going to have, it's going to be wide enough that we're going to need slope easements. Most of the vegetation, if not all of the vegetation, will need to be removed completely. And then finally is the safety of the park. Having this road may invite cut-through traffic. We already have seen an increase on the cut-through traffic on 980 North. Technically, with 10 residents living on 980 North, we should have 100 and 120 cars per day. We have traffic counts showing 2,200 cars per day during summer season, 1,100 cars per day during school season. So we are adding 1,000, 2,000 cars per day. Having this road and the cut-through traffic from the north may increase that number and make the park not only unsafe, but also the safety for the neighbors on 980 North may be compromised.
Okay. Any questions for Nestor?
I just had a comment. I think east-west connectivity is really important, and I know we're all hopeful that the Murdoch connector will go through, which would provide connectivity from about Harvey Boulevard east over to north, over to 100 East. But what 100 East in American Fork? As you go west, right?
Yes.
Yeah,
yes.
from 1100 East to west to about 200 East. But I was reading again in the minutes how the residents of Highland are really opposed to that, and I understand there's some nice homes there, and it would kind of be a major road going right by their houses. So I don't know how likely it is that Murdoch connector will get put in with its current alignment. I'd be supportive of putting some kind of east-west connectivity in at some point. I'm okay with getting rid of this Art Die connector, but I understand why it was in the plan, because that east-west connectivity is so important, and I don't know if it helps us to leave it there and then just modify the alignment at some future date, or to just add something new. But I think at some point we really need to have east-west connectivity that connects that area that's from North County Boulevard over, because you have to go clear up to Timpanogos Highway or down to 700 North. And if there was another road, it would take some of the burden off of 700 North, and it would make it more direct.
And we're working with Mountain Land Association of Government, and removing this road will also precipitate the funding for that road. East-west connectivity is really important, but collector roads shouldn't have driveways, should have limited access, so we reduce the potential for accidents. The Murdoch connector. Yeah. It puts more pressure on Mountain Land because we have to move traffic. We are in such a position where the I-15 corridor goes diagonally, and we have cut through traffic from north going south and the west and the east going west in the morning, and it reverses in the evening. So it is really a challenge for our police department, because it's not our traffic, it's traffic going to Linden, Pleasant Grove, Highland, and Lehigh.
Nestor, can I ask you a couple questions?
Sure.
I know we're here talking about the collector road, and part of it is that cut off traffic, and had a chance to be down there, and we had a vehicle that jumped the curb and actually took out a backyard fence on 550 East, I believe it was. And then we also had a car take out a tree separately down there. I witnessed the speeds on that, and sometimes because there isn't any driveways or anything of that nature, people tend to rush their kids to their sporting event games, and then they tend to slow down a little bit as they take that sharp curve going into Art Dye Park. I assume you probably have the same issues from 980, as I've talked with a few residents down there as well. I didn't know what the validity and the effectiveness would be to put a speed limit sign there that flashes your speed limit type of a thing, if that would be effective, and if we've seen that be effective before in that area. Other than, what other things can we do besides just putting an officer there all the time to monitor the traffic?
Well, we are working with the neighbors, and we have one of those neighbors here. We have meetings for the past 2 months, and we're coordinating an application for traffic calming. We have meetings. We went over the menu of traffic calming best management practices, which could work for this scenario. And we have an application that is going to be submitted to the city council with the signature of all the neighbors. We have plans ready to be submitted to the council and during a work session. We have one last meeting scheduled for next month, and then we have probably going to be presenting the traffic calming program proposal in the first meeting in January. But there are some traffic calming tools that are permanent speed enforcers. And like I said during the meeting today with the neighbors, is an investment on safety.
That being said, I'll go ahead and I'll move to approve the resolution amending the transportation element of the American Fork City General Plan in order to eliminate a local class road referred to as the Art Dye Connector located 980 North and 500 East.
Thank you, Councilman Shelton, for that motion. Do I have a second? Second by Councilman Barnes. Any discussion on the motion?
Just want to make sure. So these other meetings that you're holding won't affect what's being decided on tonight,
No.
correct?
No, it's not going to affect, this decision is not going to be affected.
All right, hearing none, I'll call for a roll call vote. Councilman Barnes.
Councilman Frost, just wondered if any of the audience wanted to comment tonight, since it was noted some of them are here from that neighborhood. Now's your chance, I think.
I feel that your staff has very effectively covered it.
I think they like the motion in the second, I'm guessing.
Well, that's good.
All right. Councilman Barnes.
Aye.
Councilman Bowen.
Yes.
Councilman Shelton.
Aye.
Councilman Shorter.
Aye.
Councilman Frost is aye. Unanimous vote. Thank you, Nestor. Action item number 2, review and action on a Class A beer license for 7-Eleven number 36765A at 109 East Main. Is there any questions, concerns? If not, I'll entertain a motion.
I'd move to approve a Class A beer license for the 7-Eleven number 36765A located at 109 East Main Street.
Thank you, Councilman Shorter, for that motion. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Second by Councilman Shelton. Any discussion on the motion? Hearing none, we'll call for a roll call vote. Councilman Barnes.
Aye.
Councilman Bowen.
Nay.
Councilman Shelton.
Aye.
Councilman Shorter.
Aye.
Councilman Frost is aye. Motion carries. Action item number 3, review and action on a Class A beer license for Hearts Gas and Food at 21 North, 1020 West.
I'd move to approve that Class A beer license as well for Hearts Gas and Food at 21 North, 1020 West.
Thank you, Councilman Shorter. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Second by Councilman Shelton. Any discussion on this motion?
This is a New Hearts, right? Out kind of by Pioneer Crossing.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Hearing none, I will call for a roll call vote. Councilman Barnes.
Aye.
Councilman Bowen.
Yes.
Councilman Shelton.
Aye.
Councilman Shorter.
Aye.
Councilman Frost is aye. Motion carries. Item number 4, review and action on a resolution indicating the city's intent to annex the Mitchell Farms annexation consisting of 28.25 acres at approximately 850 West, 700 North. Adam, do you have anything you might just lead into this?
This is just the first step in the annexation process. This just kind of gets the ball rolling. So.
Okay. All right, I'll entertain a motion.
I'll move to approve the resolution indicating the city's intent to annex the Mitchell Farms annexation consisting of 28.25 acres at approximately 850 west, 700 north.
Thank you, Councilman Shelton. Seconded by Councilman Bowen. Any discussion on the motion? Hearing none, I'll call for a roll call vote. Councilman Barnes.
Aye.
Councilman Bowen.
Aye.
Councilman Shelton.
Aye.
Councilman Shorter.
Aye.
Councilman Frost is aye. Moving right along. Action item number 5, review and action on the SMART annexation consisting of 30.01 acres at 1100 North, 1200 East, including the ordinance of annexation, annexation agreement, and placement of the property in the R1 12,000 residential zone.
I move to approve the SMART annexation consisting of 30.01 acres at 1100 North, 1200 East, including the ordinance of annexation, annexation agreement, and placement of the property in the R1 12,000 zone.
Thank you, Councilman Bowen, for that motion. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Second on Councilman Shelton. Any discussion on the motion? Hearing none, call for a roll call vote. Councilman Barnes.
Aye.
Councilman Bowen.
Yes.
Councilman Shelton.
Aye.
Councilman Shorter.
Aye.
Councilman Frost is aye. Unanimous. Thank you. We'll move forward on number 6, review and action on the Bennett annexation consisting of 23.57 acres at 80 North, 1020 West, including the ordinance of annexation, the annexation agreement, and placement of the property in the GC2 planned commercial zone and the PF public facility zone.
I'd move to approve the Bennett annexation consisting of 23.57 acres at 80 North, 1020 West, including the ordinance of annexation, annexation agreement, and placement of the property in the GC-2 and the PF zones.
I'll second that.
Thank you, Councilman Shorter, for the motion. Councilman Shelton on the second. Any discussion on the motion?
This is south of I-15, I noticed. It looks like right adjacent to the freeway.
Okay, we'll have a roll call vote. Councilman Barnes.
Aye.
Councilman Bowen.
Yes.
Councilman Shelton.
Aye.
Councilman Shorter.
Aye.
Councilman Frost is aye. Action item number 7, we have chose to pull that one for tonight. We are in discussions with the National Park Service on this ordinance, and we intend you'll see that within the next council meeting in December, or perhaps the first one in January. Action item number 8, review and action on subdivision, commercial projects, condominiums, and PUDs, including 1, plat approval, 2, method of satisfaction of water rights requirements, 3, posting of an improvement bond or setting of time frame for improvement installation, and 4, authorization to assign the final plat and acceptance of the dedication to the public and to have the plat recorded. We have one such item for consideration tonight, and that is review and action on an ordinance approving a commercial site plan for the Golf Skills Training Center at Fox Hollow Golf Club, located at 300 East, 1600 North, in the PF Public Facility Zone. And Adam, we'll turn some time over to you to discuss this.
Thank you, Mayor and Council. This item went to Planning Commission last week. It was expedited onto your agenda, and that's why you do not have any minutes. But I wanted to give a report on what happened at the meeting. The Planning Commission was in favor of this proposal for the training facility. The one item that they did place in a condition of approval was that the parking area to the south, which you can see on your screens, it's currently unimproved dirt or gravel. Because this will be the main parking area for patrons, they did request that the city improve this area to finish it and make it a finished, improved parking lot. So that was the one condition that they added onto their motion. Otherwise, it was a unanimous approval.
We have the ability to pay that ourselves, correct?
Yes, it's city property. Mm-hmm.
It is city property.
Yes.
About how big is it? Anybody know?
The parking lot?
Yeah.
Offhand, I don't. I could look at it. And even the facility, or the land where the training facility will be, that's also property owned by the city. It's part of the golf course.
It's all part of the golf course. Is this something that would be done next spring? Is that what the anticipation is?
If the applicant's here, they could speak to that. I don't know their time frame, but I know that they were wanting to get approval quickly, and so that's why this is before us.
I guess there's two parts. One is the part of the building, what we're talking about, and the other part is the parking.
Yes.
They're separate. So they could do the building, and they could do that now, for example, and Public Works just do the parking next year when they get a chance to do that. Is that correct?
I would imagine, because it probably would not be open for use until next year if they started.
We don't have any idea on their timeline then.
If I don't. If they're here, we could ask them, yes.
Is the applicant here? Well, we might invite you to come up and answer a few questions.
Would be glad to help you on this, but it's got to take two of us because I have some answers and he has some answers. I'm Mark Johnson with Mustang Design, and this is Jay Meekum with Civil Science.
Great.
In answer to the first question about the size, I'm estimating it's roughly 20,000 square feet, 25,000 square feet for that parking lot. Yeah, it is on city property. Some of the paving has already been done. For instance, on the access road, Lehigh had some extra asphalt. They came up. They've been a big participant in this, as all the cities have been that are participating in Fox Hollow. I'm sure we can come up with some kind of mechanism that parking lot can be paved. It just might take a little while to be done.
So this is basically Fox Hollow that is the applicant.
Actually, it's a nonprofit association. This is being done in association with Fox Hollow. This parcel is actually land that is being leased from American Fork City. This was your parcel, and it's the nonprofit organization. It's being built with donated funds, with high anticipation from Fox Hollow that it will help enhance the golf course. We really believe it will, and make things more attractive there for additional tournaments. Some additional interest in golf, some additional training for the youth. This is actually a pretty big deal for the golf course.
I think it's good to note that it's being built on city property, so when this lease ends, those improvements stay with the city on the city property, but yet the other two cities, being Pleasant Grove and Lehigh, have been very active and good participants as I've been there and talked with other council members that are there, and Fox Hollow as well, because like you said, there's a great synergy that can take place there. So
right. Yeah.
I don't see any problem having that parking lot paved, as we can probably reach out and see what we can pull resources together from the different cities.
And that parking lot, just to note, is also an event parking lot. It's not the main parking lot. Most of the participants who will use this on a daily basis will be bussed in. There'll be university students. There'll be other students who come in to train. There will be some exhibitions that'll be done there, and that's who will park there when there's general public events, and
Yeah,
they can walk down or be shuttled down.
I noticed that too, and I don't think the parking situation is very ideal the way they're planning on using the south parking lot, which is quite a distance from the facility, and I know their long-term plan is to have a parking lot right up by the facility. I don't know why they don't just do that now.
That is being done now. So that parking lot up, everything on the north part of the facility is planned, and that's what will be constructed now.
So there's just not sufficient parking, though. It's just bus parking, basically.
Well, it's
And
really
employee parking.
on a daily basis. We've got 7 stalls there. We probably will not use 7. It's for a couple coaches, and the students who come will probably be bussed in, and there'll be a place for the bus or a van. It's a small, it's a small van.
Will it be available though to the general public?
During a big event, the general public will probably be encouraged to park down in the larger parking lot and not up in this area.
Right, but aside from events, will the general public be able to come and use the training facility?
I can probably address that. We have a lease agreement that has already been approved by the council. It's in place that addresses all of the requirements in regards to that, because we've got some 6F land as well, and so that's pursuant to a lease agreement. And I'll be happy to provide you a copy of that afterwards. It does provide for public access. There are times that there won't be public access, but it will be made available to the public. That's part of the agreement we have with them.
Right. So I'm just concerned that if there's public access, there's going to be times where it's not people being bussed in, and the parking's going to be completely insufficient for the facility, and that's a long ways to walk from the south parking lot that you're talking about. So I'd just encourage a modification of the design to include, some adequate parking that's up near the facility.
I think the hard thing is it's hard, given the geographical location, to put a big parking lot like that on the north end. The other thing is that my wife and I and my 2-year-old son walked that from the actual parking lot at Fox Hollow when they had the open house, and it really isn't that bad of a walk. And if you're going to play golf, typically I found it's really easy and lazy to get a golf cart and be able to do that as well. And so I don't have any problem with the distance and location, just because of the way it's going to be used. And on the north end, there just isn't feasibly any way to be able to put a big parking lot.
So and my other concern was the access. So the intended main access eventually is the Murdoch connector, but we already know that isn't going to happen anytime soon because there's opposition to it from the people that live there and also politically. So it doesn't seem very viable to count on that as your main access point.
Do you want to respond? Jay actually worked on the Murdoch Connector Road initially because that was given to civil science initially, and so he has a lot of the information available that the layout is where it's positioned in this plan is the future design. We are very familiar with the contention in regards to that road. We believe it will happen. It's just not going to happen as soon as everybody would like it to happen. There is access right now to sustain the project as it is. It's been asphalted. It's not as wide as it needs to be.
Yeah. I mean, we use the footprint for the Murdoch connector in this layout and utilizing the same access that we had initially designed for in that initial layout. There is, or was, a dirt road that goes down to that. That's recently been paved with asphalt, and that's part of the requirement from the fire marshal that be paved and the access be provided there. Whether the Murdoch, or when the Murdoch connector goes in, that access is still usable right now and ready for uses currently.
The paved road going down there's just kind of like it's not a full road, or is it a?
No, I mean, it's not a full road. I mean, when the Murdoch connector goes in, there will be vertical profile changes.
I mean, if you're going to make the investment, then it's going to be available, to people to use. I'd just really like to see it done right with the parking and accessibility.
I'd move to approve the ordinance approving the commercial site plan for the Golf Skills Training Center, Fox Hollow Golf Course, located at 300 East 1600 North in the PF Public Facilities Zone, with instruction to the city recorder to withhold publication of the ordinance subject to all conditions identified in the public record associated with the November 16, 2016 Planning Commission meeting.
I'll second.
Okay, we have a motion by Councilman Shorter, a second by Councilman Shelton. Any discussion on the motion? Hearing none, I'll call for a roll call vote. Councilman Barnes?
Aye.
Councilman Bowen?
No.
Councilman Shelton?
Aye.
Councilman Shorter?
Aye.
Councilman Frost is an aye. Thank you,
very
gentlemen. We're
much.
looking forward to a great little partnership here.
great
I
thing
think it's
for the
going to
city.
enhance the sport of golf in
Thanks.
Fox Hollow. Thank you. Action item number 9, review and action on an ordinance approving amendments to the development and construction standard for trails and street cross sections. Nestor, do you want to give us a quick synopsis on this one?
Sure. We have a general plan for pedestrian and bicycles, and the denomination of those paths actually didn't match with the construction standards. So with these new cross sections, we're using the same. We're naming the trails using the same name called SIPA, not neighborhood trails or regional trails or I think natural trails. we're matching the name, and also we're standardizing the cross section for those trails. There was one version that was submitted to the Planning Commission where we had a 10-foot wide side path with a 3-foot wide park strip. We amended that to make it 8-foot wide for the side path and a 5-foot minimum for the park strip. The main reason is 10 foot seems to be very excessive for low volume roads and low volume of pedestrian traffic. And also when we go to assess the impact fees, the extra width of the side path become a system improvements, and that system improvement translate into impact fees credit. And a 10-foot wide side path was the impact fees for roads if the side path is in front of the parcel, or park impact fees if the trail is on the back, will exceed the impact fees that needs to be assessed to the developer and translate into a deficit. So that's why engineering recommended to reduce the 10-foot wide to 8 feet for local roads with low volume. And for arterial roads with 2 lanes or more, keep it 10 feet, and for shared side paths where we have bike lanes, the minimum width is recommended to be 14 feet. As you may see on today's agenda, we have a number of annexations coming in. We have more coming on the south, and this is our opportunity to standardize all the trails, the cross sections, and have the Utah Lake Shoreline Trail. It's going to be a regional trail with a 14 feet wide following this cross section. It's going to be very unique. And we may be the only city that has a trail from city boundary to city boundary along the shoreline of the Utah Lake.
Thank you. So, Nestor, just real quick, if I understand right, we have 8 feet in low volume roads is what is proposed in this standard.
For
I was
local
looking through
roads.
it, and I didn't see any cross sections with 8 feet. I see 10 and 14, but no 8s. Maybe I missed it.
Yeah, it's for the local
Okay.
roads. We have an 8-foot concrete
is.
side path at 5 feet.
Okay, great.
All right. Is there any comment from the public? Anybody want to say anything that's here? Okay. If you come up and state your name, be great.
My name is John Sumption. I live by Costco, on the American Fork side, you know.
Yeah.
And I bike regularly on American Fork streets. It's my preferred means of transportation to get to work and other places in the city. And I wasn't able to tell what part of the bike traffic was going to get pushed onto a sidewalk or a trail. And I wanted to just express that if there's not going to be enough room on the street for bikes in the regular flow of traffic, riding a bike on the sidewalk is dangerous to pedestrians, but it's also dangerous to the bike rider if there's a right turn or a left turn car. And I just wanted to I couldn't tell from this whether bike traffic was going to get diverted onto sidewalks, and that was just a question I had.
I think that's been a question we've had a lot as we've talked about it, and I don't mean to use too many stereotypes or poke fun, but sometimes we call the serious biker crowd the spandex crowd, and so I think no matter what you did, they're always going to ride aggressively in the roadway, and I don't think the intention of any of this is to remove that. I think that the trail systems we're looking for are more the recreational type of users that aren't looking to maybe be their main travel and going at certain speeds to get to and from, but more of a recreational type of a standard. And that's what I noticed when we were in not Denver, it was Boulder, Colorado, as we had a chance to go back there and look at their trail system as well. So I don't think there's any proposal in here, Nestor, that would make shifting traffic one way or the other. You'd have the option, whichever you'd prefer.
Well, that's
with,
right.
With that, I'll move to do we already make a motion? Okay, I'll make a motion to approve the ordinance amending the development and construction standard for trails and street cross sections.
Thank you, Councilman Shelton, for that motion. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second by Councilman Shorter. Any discussion on the motion?
Yeah, I had some discussion on it. So just a little vocabulary lesson from our work session where I learned. When they say side path, what they really mean is sidewalk. So so when they are talking about a separate, what you would think of as a trail, that's referred to as a shared use path. So anytime it says side path, it's basically just talking about a sidewalk. This ordinance basically adopts an 8-foot sidewalk for local class streets, and I just think that's excessive. I think a 5-foot sidewalk for a local street is adequate. So based on that, I'm opposed to this change. Although I am glad to see that it's 8 feet instead of 10 feet. I thought 10 feet was even more excessive. So I'm glad that it's been bumped down to 8 feet. But I really think a 5-foot sidewalk's adequate, in a neighborhood on a local street.
Thank you. Okay, we have a motion and a second. Any other discussion?
This one's been a real challenge for me because I'm with Councilman Bowen to some extent on how wide do we need sidewalks and how much ground do we need to take away from homeowners and then require them to shovel the snow on it and everything else. And kind of what I think I've come to, and Nestor, correct me if I'm wrong, this ultimately becomes a compromise.
Right.
And with a compromise, not everybody's happy, obviously. And one side wants more, one side wants less. Doesn't matter if it's a sidewalk or money or whatever you're talking about. But in my limited understanding of this, I think this is probably the least intrusive of a compromise that we could have come up with and yet still meet the demands of the bikers as well as the moms that are jogging behind their strollers and everything else.
That's correct.
And they tend to, sometimes they use the road and sometimes they use the sidewalk. I think to some extent for them it depends on which is the least hazardous to them and their baby and their strollers. So with all that in mind, because it is a compromise, I'm just saying I'm going to go with it, even though I do have some real reservations with it. If that makes any sense, great. If it doesn't, I'm sorry.
Made sense to me. All right, I'm going to call for a roll call vote. Councilman Barnes.
Aye.
Councilman Bowen.
No.
Councilman Shelton.
Aye.
Councilman Shorter.
Aye.
Councilman Frost is an aye. I'd like to thank Councilman Shelton. I think that he really kind of took the lead on this to kind of meet this compromise. Spent a lot of time on it. Thank you, Councilman Shelton.
I can't take a lot of credit. I think staff did a lot of work as well, so they make you
Well,
look
it's-
good. So thank you as well.
I agree. Thank you.
I know
for
how to ride a
promoting
bike, so I'd like to take some credit as well.
Do they make training wheels for one that I can use so I can learn again? Try some of these new trails out one of these days.
Action item number 10, review and action on an ordinance adopting an amendment to section 17.5.128.d.6.c of the American Fork City Development Code. Adam, will you lead us on this one, please?
Yes, thank you. This relates to project identification signs for large commercial developments. So this is rather limited in scope. The only place that this applies to in the city is the area of the Meadows Commercial District. This is a proposal brought forth by Woodbury requesting a reduction in the distance between project identification signs. They would like to add one additional sign on State Street. The proposed language that you have before you would allow this to happen. The Planning Commission discussed it, and given its limited, I guess you could say, effects on areas of the city, they recommended approval of this amendment, and now it's before you.
Thank you, Adam. Very good summary.
The ordinance adopting amendment to the section 17.5, let's see, .128, point D, big D, .6, little c of the American Fork City Development Code.
Thank you, Councilman Shorter, for that motion. Do I have a second? Second by Councilman Barnes. Any discussion on the motion?
I just wanted to mention, I looked at this and I'm supportive of their wanting to make it so that there's more signs on State Street. They're basically trying to drive traffic to the south end of the Meadows, which is not right on State Street. You have to drive in a ways to get to it, you know, kind of back where the theaters are and the Gordmans and stuff. And, you know, as a business, they have an interest in driving that traffic, and it also benefits us as a city because it increases potentially our sales tax revenue. So I just think it's great. And, but I guess my point is, you know, the city, we would never have someone probably looking at this saying, oh, we need to change the sign ordinance to make it so we can have more signs. But these things that we do here really impact the businesses. I mean, right now they're prohibited by code from having another sign that they deem would be beneficial to you know, helping people to know where to go to shop at the businesses that are there in the Meadows. So anyway, I'm supportive of the change.
Thank you. All right. I'll call for a roll call vote. Councilman Barnes.
Aye.
Councilman Bowen.
Yes.
Councilman Shelton.
Aye.
Councilman Shorter.
Aye.
And Councilman Frost is aye. Motion passes with unanimous vote. Number 11, adjournment. Do I have a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Motion by Councilman Shelton, second by Councilman Bowen. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you. We're adjourned. Good to see you once again.